Hello again. Sorry the last video ended up being a video on its own, and this is now another video. It was well over 30 minutes, so I had to condense it down and do this as a second video. Otherwise I can't seem to upload them onto YouTube. So I'll show you what I've done. I've just tied this shut. I did have some elastic around it, but the cat is a bit of an elastic fiend, so I had to remove that. I've put the pages we have done so far into one of the elastics. There is still an awful lot to do, even on a very basic level. So I've made a decision, which I'll tell you about a bit later. What I want to do is I'm just going to take these pages out, because these are the ones that we are currently working on. And I'm going to add some things to what we've done already. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this into kind of a mini series where it could take me a couple of months, but I'm going to keep coming back and we're going to look at some of these in a lot more detail. And if you want to work along, then, you know, I'll explain the challenge for the Facebook group at the end as well. It's kind of all going to tie in. Now, what I'm going to look at is how to extend the dimensions of this first of all. And I'm going to start with something very, very simple. So this particular one here, where I added the cardboard, I'm going to move those aside again. Where I added the cardboard, I'm going to put a dangle on here, and I'm going to make the simplest dangle ever. So I'm just going to grab my punch, put a hole in and an eyelet, and this is something you've seen myself and many other people do several times, if not hundreds of times. And I'm just going to add just something very, very simple. So we've got a pin. I'm going to put a bead, a bell and a charm on here, but I'm going to do another video on making dangles because it's been a long time since I've done journal making videos, and I think I'm going to actually come back to them and do quite a lot of work on that this year. So we've now got a dangle on there. That's extended that quite nicely. So I'm going to just put this page back into place. So now we have that's quite pretty. The next thing, let's tick that off, because obviously we're not going to get all of these done now. We're going to look at some trims. So mostly we're looking at the frills now. All of these items here can be used as frills. So for example, I've got a scrap of cardboard that could very, very simply be added to this, and it's either a tab, or you could make it the whole length to make it a frill, an extra dimension to your journals. But the first thing we're going to look at is paper frills. Now, Michele Mooney, not Moody, Michele Mooney, I think her name is, who is the paper addiction, who is the paper addiction, kind of started this whole making frills and trims with pattern paper. Now I'm going to add 2 on here. This one's probably a little bit wide, so I'm going to tear that down slightly. Okay, now I'm going to make this easy for myself, so I'm going to run a very small bead of glue down here. And there are 2 different ways of creating paper and fabric trims. You can kind of scrunch where you're doing more of a gather, or you can fold. Now this one I'm going to do as a scrunch, and this one I'm going to do as a fold. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold in some pleats really simply. And just to give it a bit more interest, I've obviously doubled mine up. Okay, so that is ready to sew. This one, I'm going to put it through my machine and I'm just going to keep wrinkling the paper as I sew. So I'm going to sew these and come straight back. So we have two different examples. This one I actually put, this was better. But the first bit I was pushing a bit too hard on my sewing machine, so it went a bit too quick. I'm going to grab the odd pages. So let's add one to the back of here. And I'm going to do this via glue. You can sew straight on to the page, of course, but I do like to do it this way. And I'm going to overhang. And how far you overhang is completely up to you. So we've now got a frill on that page. Let's add the other one. Because it's a light paper and this is a light paper, I'm actually going to add it to the newsprint page. Now this time I'm going to add a bead of glue down my stitching. Doesn't take a lot to hold this in place. And then I'm going to add that too. So again, we've got our little paper frill. So you can see we have a lot of texture and dimension going on now with these pages. I've got a couple of ready-mades now. The first is this scrap paper trim that I made. I've got a whole video on this, so I'll link that down below. Actually, I'll link it at the end. And I'm going to add some of this. I'm going to add it to the back of this page, but I'm not going to add it all because this is just a sample. And I'm going to have this sticking slightly out of the top as well as slightly over the edge. Or not at all. I'm just going to add a couple of staples to this. So now we've got some texture using our scrap trim. The other thing that I have ready made is a cluster. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to do a video where I'm going to make some, but I'm going to add this to the cover to add some texture. But I also have one more thing I want to add to the cover. So before we move on to fabric trims, let's work on this. I'm just going to tie it shut to make this a bit easier to work with. Now what I did was, these die cut frames are super cheap. They're like £1 or in somewhere like the Works, maybe slightly more if you go onto Amazon. But I've cut out a Tim Holtz photo to add to that. Let's see how we can kind of coordinate these to give our cover some texture and some dimension. I think that is going to be quite cute, but you can always add these to pages quite easily. They'll just as easily add to pages as they do to this. So I'm going to glue this down first. I'm going to put it about here, I think. Now I'm going to add the frame. And Andrea has just done a video where she actually heat embossed inside. So that's another great video to go and watch to add even more texture, because you've then got that shiny texture. So we've now added some texture and dimension to a cover in a really simple way. You could also add this to your pages, have it hanging out. So finally, let's just tick off a couple of things. What have we done? We've done a cluster. Where's that? So we've got cluster done. We've done some sewing. We've done some layering. We didn't do fussy cuts yet, but I think we're going to have to kind of call it a little bit of a day on some of these. Okay, I've got 3 pieces of fabric here, and I'm going to do the same as I did with the paper. I'm going to sew this one with a gather, and I'm going to sew this one with a pleat. So I'll do that and be back. So we've now got these two, and I've also got some lace. So I'm going to bring this back in. I think I'm going to use this thicker side here. I'm just going to look at where I want to add that. I think I'm going to add it down the bottom. Just give that a second. And then let's add what's on here. We've got a decoupage page. So I'm going to add this here. Got a bit of a problem with my sewing machine, so definitely gonna have to get that in to have a service soon. And I have changed the needle, changed the thread, checked my tension, so I think it is just time for a I want to add paint to this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the lace to the other side. I'm not going to glue sew the lace. You can sew it straight on, which I have done many times, but for this I'm just going to glue it in place. And I do think we have a really good start for our little sample book now. Let's put this back in. And there we have it. It's looking pretty cool so far. Please, please go and check out Wendy, Gail, Sue, Marley's and Corey. They will all have videos out today. And I'm also going to put all the videos that come out in a playlist. The link will be at the end of both of my videos from today. I'm going to come back and continue working on a little series, mostly on the texture and dimension and frills, exactly what we've been working at. But I'm going to carry on filling my sample book. So it would be great if you could make some kind of sample book to work along with me. And for the challenge this month, for January, in my Facebook group, it's going to be for you to take part in the hashtag Initially You 2022. So post into the event, post into other Facebook groups if you're allowed to use your hashtags, share on Instagram, so Corey gets plenty of recognition for this collaboration, because it took a little bit of doing to put this together, and I'm really grateful for everybody that's involved. I think it's an awesome collaboration, and I can't wait to watch the videos tomorrow now, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow. Be tomorrow. Have a wonderful new year. Please get involved. Please take part. Download your freebie if you want some prompts, and if you want to follow along with this list, it's in the Facebook group for you to print off. I will see you all again really soon. Take care. Thanks again. Bye.